talking.
Hey, everybody. It's Amazing Fantasy Football with Josh mumbling in the background. As usual, I'm your a beautiful co-host, Chris, and joining us, as always, tonight is...
I am the chocolate to your sea salt.
That guy.
Josh.
Yeah, I could do without that.
Yeah, me too. I really don't like it.
I mean, it's...
I
get it.
Accidentally...
Chocolate is bitter.
I went to
Can
get
be.
some nuts out of the vending machine at work today, and I got sea salt covered, like chocolate covered caramels with sea salt on top. It wasn't very good.
I mean, I like some salt and some chocolate and stuff. It just...
Yeah, I feel like they go way too far.
A little peanut
Way
butter
too
in there,
far.
too.
No, it was just caramel and chocolate.
I'm just saying you could have a little peanut butter too. Complements it nicely. But yeah, chocolate's fine. Just not the top of my list. I'd rather do like cinnamon or vanilla or cheesecake or yeah.
But
Love
vanilla?
cheesecake.
Cheesecake?
Yeah, it's like flavor of sweets. Other ingredients to sweets besides sugar.
Cheesecake?
Yeah.
They have cheesecake candy?
No. But they have chocolate cake, just like they have cheesecake. Yeah, they have caramel candies, vanilla candies, cream filled candies, stuff without chocolate. Yeah, sure. And there probably is a cheesecake candy also. You're just missing out, buddy.
That sounds disgusting.
So here we are, week 17 championship week with your favorite fantasy hosts. Here to give you amazing fantasy advice.
Ooh, cheesecake Kit Kat in Japan.
There you go. Japan knows what they're doing.
They also have
And
strawberry Kit Kats in Japan too.
off the top of my head, I don't know. How many teams are we worried about resting guys outside of legit injury? Like just tonight, if I'm not mistaken, with Dallas and Tennessee playing.
I don't think they're legit resting players. I think Derrick Henry is actually hurt. They said that he was going to play next week, so I think that means that he was.
I think
into this game.
I think especially
And
given their record.
So is Tony Pollard. So yeah.
I think they both would be playing if they were playing for something. I absolutely believe that. Especially Henry.
But they said he was going to play next week. I will see. I mean, obviously, we don't know what's going to happen next week.
Oh, he'll be in next
They're
week.
going to play him next week. What?
They got to win to get in. So I was thinking about that in the car. So, and I don't have the standings in front of me or the math in front of me, but they said it doesn't matter what happens to Tennessee this week. What if Tennessee were to beat Dallas and Jacksonville lost this week? I mean, it must be a matter of... Obviously, it's whoever wins the division gets into the playoffs, and there is no wild card from that division because they're awful. But, like, how can a game not...
It looks like Chris didn't do a good job on the sound check.
Oh, why? Can nobody hear us?
Doc says my white mic is very quiet.
Yeah, it usually is. It was last week.
Everything's where it should be.
I've got you turned up, so I don't know. Am I too loud? Here, let me mess with your level here. But it's where it always has been. Please
Perhaps
speak,
it
sir.
should be turned up then.
Oh, there you go. Well, that'll do.
Good.
I hope so. Yeah, it looks good to me in terms of levels.
It always sounds good on the recording.
Doc says, "Hola, I am very unwell. My fantasy collapse has me sick."
Yeah, that was 10 minutes ago.
What? We had Sofapia cheesecake for Christmas? Oh my god.
Yeah, welcome to the chat.
Yeah, well, you didn't respond to any of it, so how am I supposed to know? Anyway.
I read it.
Okay, cool. I didn't know that.
Anyways, so yeah, Sopapilla cheesecake candy. See, I would have thought that Japan would not have a cheesecake Kit Kat. Like, they're not real big into sweets. Like the uber sweet like America is.
Being, not America, I would, not the diabetes capital of the world, I would assume they're less into sugar
We
than
are
we
not the diabetic capital. Wait, are we diabetic number one?
I would assume so.
Yes, we're number one.
We're obese.
USA.
We're number one in
USA.
obesity. Number one in heart disease, course, we have a lot of people too, so there's that. But no, yeah.
I mean, but if you really think about it compared to China and India, no.
Oh, fair.
Like
in terms of how
half
many people.
to 2/3 of their population.
He said better now on the sound. Jags and Tennessee have the same record. Titans are 3-2 in division. Jags are 2-2.
Yeah.
Okay. Would they not have? Wouldn't Titans be a game better if Jacksonville lost this week and Titans win this week?
Jacksonville's playing Houston.
Yeah.
So I don't think Tennessee's worried about that. I don't get it either, but whatever. Let's move on with the news, Chris.
Yeah, let's do that. I'm going to sit here and ponder this for a minute by myself.
You sit there and ponder. You become the thinking
It's been
man.
annoying me since I ran errands about an hour ago.
You know what annoys me?
Hmm.
I'm not really sure.
Me?
But anyways. No. I mean, at times, but not right now.
Give me a minute.
Right?
All right.
Let's start with the top with the news that broke today that Derek Carr will actually, maybe it was yesterday. I don't really
Might have
remember.
been yesterday.
Derek Carr is going to be sitting the final 2 games of the Raiders, and Jarrett Stidham will be filling in for him the last 2 games. They want to have a look at the younger quarterback, and what I thought was weird about all this
5-year
is,
vet.
I don't think so. I don't think he's that far in.
I'll let it.
But anyways, so what I thought was interesting is that Derek Carr isn't even going to be playing. He's actually, quote, stepping away from the team in these last 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, you didn't know that.
No.
And
I thought he was just straight up getting bent.
And the Raiders, the Jared Carr. I don't know
The
who that
Jared
is. Derek
Carrs.
Carr. Derek Carr, on the other hand, the Raiders can cut him for like $5.5 million dead cap this year, but if they keep him past the they can cut him for $5.5 million dead cap before the Super Bowl, but afterwards his contract for the next 2 years becomes fully guaranteed. It's very bizarre.
That's his weird language written into said contract. Yeah, I'd cut ties right now. I don't have a first-hand knowledge of what they've done the past couple of weeks. I know they've been back and forth with wins and losses.
I think they've pooped the bed.
Yeah, and I know the past 2 weeks, offensively at least, they've really pooped the bed. Devontae Adams has been awful in fantasy. I absolutely know that. You know that very well.
He is one of the many reasons why my dynasty team turned to poop this past month.
Yeah, that's fair. Oh man, fumbled snap, whatever. So that's where I'm at with Derek Carr. Just I thought I had a bit of a, I don't say dark horse, but I thought I had a bit of a underrated guy in Derek Carr that I was looking at, but I was dead wrong. Apparently he's rated accurately, rated like poop. Why am I going with the non-cursing stuff?
I don't know. I don't know what Derek Carr is. Like, I feel like he's really great at times. Other times he's not. Like, I feel like Derek Carr is Derek Carr kind of Jared Goff? Like, and I'm not trying to be mean about it or anything. And it's actually, if anything, it's more of a I don't know, bringing Jared Goff up by comparing to Derek Carr, but you know, like in the sense that like Derek Carr's just kind of average to above average, you know.
I feel like Goff at least a couple times in his career has been significantly above average, though. Well, I guess you say above average.
So is
straight up good.
Derek
I guess.
Carr. You know, just I don't know.
Yes,
I don't think the Raiders have done their due diligence to put Derek Carr in the most winning scenario, i.e., really, I think like he's played behind a bad.
Well, I was going to make the opposite point in rebuttal to your Goff comparison. Let's look at it this way. I saw a comment, might be a solid week ago, about some quarterback. All he, in a very sarcastic way or something like, all he needs is an elite offensive line, running backs, receivers, this, that, and the other. I'm like, dude, pretty much every single quarterback in the league needs help, needs good players around him, needs pro bowlers, all pros at certain positions, needs that. They just do. Now, there's a couple exceptions. I was going to say, there's a couple exceptions. Early career Tom Brady, While he
I was saying, look at Tom Brady this year. Like,
a perfect example. In fact, that might have been the subject.
The Bucs offensive line has been a little banged up. They're not getting the best. Tom Brady isn't playing his best. Mike Evans has not played well at all. You know,
Jensen might be back. Not this week. Not this week, to be clear. Jensen, the center that got hurt early on.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But yeah, that's a very good reference. And I would disagree that Mahomes doesn't need anybody, Doc. I think every quarterback does. However, the two best arguments I came up with at the time a week ago when reading this comment or whatever was Brady, early career Brady. Now, he wasn't putting up eye-popping stats, but he was definitely winning playoff games and Super Bowls with Deion Branch and
a good offensive line.
He had a pretty great defense. He had a pretty great defense and a good offensive line.
Defense.
He did, but he didn't have the pass-catching weapons or the running backs, clearly. But obviously, he got the help later on in his career, middle and later on. Mahomes, I was skeptical without Ty Hill. I mean, I got to give the nod to Mahomes on that one, but he's had Kelsey his whole career.
But also look at what they came out and said in the preseason what they're going to do this year, and that spread the ball around. That's exactly what Mahomes has done.
And I think Mahomes is the MVP. I also think Mahomes is
he spread that ball like butter.
Absolutely. And I think Mahomes is very, very coachable. One of the things that probably makes him the greatest quarterback in the league right now. That's not my point. My point is I think even he needs help. But the two best arguments off the top of my head, early career Brady and Mahomes don't need an ass ton of help. However, every single other quarterback, almost, I wouldn't say ever, but currently and mostly ever, it's fact. It just is. So Derek Carr got Devontae Adams this year, got contract year Josh Jacobs, shot out of a goddamn cannon. Nothing else comes to mind. I think they got a really good pass rusher. I don't know any offensive line names, to be fair, but I think he got a pretty decent amount of help.
An offensive line.
Well, that's maybe contrary to my point, but I think he got enough help, and he shit the bed. On the opposite side, the Lions are trending in the right direction. Yeah, I think they lost last week, gave up a bunch of yards on the ground. Anyway, had been very much trending in the right direction. Had won 6 of 7 or something. Borderline getting in the playoff race. Looked great on offense. And Goff is steering that ship, you know? Two similar guys going in different directions is the way I would answer.
All right, let's continue with the news. On to Lamar Jackson. It said he was a non-participant in practice today, but I saw a report that he was throwing today. So that's with his knee injury. So we'll have to keep an eye out for him. Remember, no Sunday show this week because it's New Year's Day, and I don't know what Chris's plans are for New Year's Eve, but I plan to wake up all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed to not do this show. No joke. Anyways, Aaron Rodgers, he's blah, 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 limited practice, jerk, he's going to play. Tua, on the other hand, on Monday, reported that he had concussion-like symptoms, and he will not be playing this week. And this makes his second or third diagnosed concussion. I don't really know what we are on the season. This is definitely for sure his second, if not his third. And let's just call it 3. That's a lot of concussions in one season. Chris, how do you? I mean, like, I feel like, I feel like if the Dolphins would be a really good idea to have a very good quarterback behind Tua next year, because
if not, start drafting his replacement.
I don't know. I'm not going to say that. I would say put a very good veteran behind him if you can. And that way in case Tua is knocked out with another concussion next year for probably extended time. You know, who knows? He might go the rest of his career without a concussion too. You know, it's hard to say, but
yeah, I would bet the under on that. Like exactly. my entire mortgage loan left. Like, come on.
I thought you were going to say. His
head has to be.
Like, I'll bet my mom on that.
His head has to be so squishy in more ways than one right now. Like, just.
I don't think
it's easy for us to make him an example because he plays the most visible position probably in all of sports. You know, like the most important position, if you will. Like, There's been tons of linemen and linebackers, I'm sure, that I don't hear about that have had a alarming number of concussions. But man, I don't know. I don't think this guy's career is going to go too well.
Anyways, okay, let's keep moving. You know what I said about Lamar Jackson, I meant about Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts was practice limited today, and he was throwing. Sorry, I got the two mixed up. I mean, anyways, Ryan Tannehill, he has been placed on IR, and he's pretty much done for this season. That doesn't bode well for a Tennessee team that is more or less a shoo-in for the playoffs, one way or the other.
Like they are every year in that awful division. So much funner to pick
whatever.
on your division than it is the
Anyways,
NFC East, like everybody else to do.
James Conner, he had an illness. He wasn't at practice today. He'll probably play. Tony Pollard, of course, is not playing right now. But that I say that because keep an eye on it for next week. If for some reason you're playing in Week 18 or you're a stupid Cowboys fan. Aaron Jones, he has a knee and ankle injury. He practiced limited today. Austin Eckler, also limited knee. Probably just managing, outside of, game work. There's an actual term for that, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. Ramondre Stevenson, of course, still has his ankle injury. He was limited today. I'm guessing he's going to play.
Right.
His teammate, Damian Pierce, was absent today with a thigh injury, but it says it was mainly due to a personal matter.
Damian Harris?
We'll say that. Yeah, Damian Harris. We'll say that he had bonitis. Alvin Kamara, quad and personal reason, wasn't spotted at Thursday's practice. That was due to gigantism. Miles Sanders, he had a knee, limited, of course. Christian McCaffrey, yada, yada, he'll play. Elijah Mitchell, Christian McCaffrey's teammate, said that he has made real good practice, and the running back's 21-day window to return from injury reserve may open as early as Friday, which is, as of us recording it, is mañana. Kenny Walker, the third, the running back for the Seahawks, was held out of Wednesday's practice. Derrick Henry, he is not playing this game, but as we discussed earlier, there was a message earlier today that said he was going to play next week. I'm not sure why he's not playing today. And anyways, making sure he's fresh to the playoffs, I'm sure. Antonio Gibson, foot didn't play on Thursday. That's going to bear some keeping an eye on. Stephon Diggs, illness, didn't practice today. Chase Claypool, no one cares. Amari Cooper, it looks like it was just veteran rest day for him today. Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton were both limited today in Thursday's practice. Jeudy with an ankle injury, Sutton with his continuing hamstring thing. Probably more of a, veteran day off sort of thing for the two veteran wide receivers. Christian Watson, on the other hand, was a non-participant with his hip injury that he sustained last week for Green Bay. I will talk about that more in a little bit, but I'd like to see Christian Watson get into practice tomorrow for me to have some good confidence that he's going to play this week. Mecole Hardman, he is still on the IR and it was not spotted at practice today. Ben Skoranek, he is listed as out, but he has also been put onto the IR for the Rams. So the injuries just keep piling up for the woeful Rams. I don't know who River Kraft is, so we'll skip him, and we'll skip him and Chris Olave. He was limited in practice today. Remember, he didn't play last week or maybe the week before too. I know definitely last week. I don't think I'd be weird if Chris Olave played this week or next week. I think the Saints are limited from the playoffs. They might have a chance at it, but
I mean, given that the Bucks are so bad, yeah, that's possible.
I think that whole division.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant.
You say the AFC South is bad. The NFC South is terrible. Terrible.
They're both terrible. Let's be clear.
Yeah, and
except for the Jags.
NFC South. The NFC South, the record of all their teams has a losing record, so they're the worst. Anyways, not to defend the other three teams in my division because my stupid Colts are terrible. The AJ Brown, he sounds like he has veterans rest today. Deebo Samuel limited in practice today. He's been out the last couple of weeks, so I mean, if you're counting on him, it's a okay matchup, I believe, for the 49ers this week. So hopefully Deebo plays for all of y'all. Tyler Lockett, did not practice on Wednesday. No update for today. Marquise Goodwin, he didn't take part in the Seahawks practice either with a shoulder and wrist injury. On to the tight ends. I swear, I hope I'm almost done here. Dawson Knox was limited today with a hip injury. Greg Dulcich had a hamstring injury and didn't practice today. Neither did Kylan Granson, which is maybe good for one of my tight ends I'm going to talk about in a minute. Irv Smith has been designated to return from injury reserve with his ankle injury for the Minnesota Vikings. Jonnu Smith has a concussion. He's still sidelined with it. Hunter Henry is limited in practice yesterday. No update on his status for today's practice. He also missed last week too. So, yeah, and if I remember correctly, if he has a pretty good matchup again this week. So, if you're looking for a tight end to stream, keep an eye on Hunter Henry's health.
Nice.
Chris?
Was that gigantism injury designation for Kamara official?
Yeah, if you don't remember last week and what I talked about, then yeah. Same with bonitis. Anyways, why don't you take a long time with your first guy?
Sure. While I'm at it, why don't you check those divisional standings again for those two horrible divisions? They're both really bad.
I don't care.
Okay. Well, then admit that you're wrong. And
I'm not going to because I don't care.
Okay. Well,
go ahead.
Some other people do. Dak is killing me, says Raquel Santiago. Sorry, man.
Raquel Santiago. Yeah, dude. He hasn't been playing well.
He played pretty well last week, actually. He just had 2 turnovers that were not his fault. Well, I don't know about the center exchange. Just caught a glimpse of it. Center fumble.
Are you talking about last week?
No, this week. Dak's killing him this week. Last week he played well.
Well, but what? Oh, he did? I thought he had a couple turnovers last week too, or is that the week before?
Yeah, I don't know. The Cowboys are like number 1 in scoring since he's been back. And he threw for like 300 yards, 3 touchdowns last week. But yeah, he had a turnover or so, but he still scored like 20 or 30 fantasy points, I'm pretty sure. On to my first guy. What do I have this week? Running backs in my Fave 5. Saquon Barkley versus the Colts. Unfortunately, this is probably my shortest one, Josh. But hey, Saquon Barkley versus the Colts. The Colts are 5th worst in fantasy points per game given up to running backs and have allowed 7 touchdowns to running backs in their last 3 games, a.k.a. an ass ton.
This is like an exact opposite of last year.
Yep. The Colts have given up a 79-yard, 2-touchdown game to Eckler, 190 yards and 1 touchdown to Dalvin Cook, and 197 yards and 3 touchdowns to the Dallas duo of Pollard and Zeke. I believe that was the last 3 weeks. I did not illustrate that. My apologies. Barkley has played very well. Did I?
Yeah.
Barkley has played very well lately, putting up at least 80 rushing yards, 5 catches, and a touchdown in the last 2 games. After a bit of a slump, his average yards per carry had gone way down, but bounced back these last 2 weeks to 5.4. Additionally, he has averaged 9 targets last 2 weeks. I see Barkley as a top 5 running back this week. In fact, he's one of the ones I feel best about in terms of matchups and some guys being a little less reliable at the top of the rankings.
Where was that 2 weeks ago, Saquon, when you screwed the pooch for my dynasty team or my work league team?
Oops.
Anyways, oh well. My first guy this week is Tyreek Hill. This might seem like the old low-hanging fruit, and I also wrote this on Tuesday before the news came out yesterday that Tua wasn't going to play, so bear with me here a little bit. The Finns are going up against the Pats this week. They're a pretty average matchup versus the wide receiver. New England is giving up the 15th most points per game to the receiver. So, like I said, average. In the first meeting between these two teams, way back in week 1, Tyreek Hill caught 8 of 12 targets for 94 yards or 13 fantasy points and half PPR, of course. That was good enough to make him wide receiver 23 in week 1. I'm projecting him for about those same 13 fantasy points this week or close to it, and that we'll call that his floor. That was with 2 under center though in week 1. But Teddy has made 2 starts for the Dolphins this year in weeks 4 and 6, And in those games, Tyreek Hill scored 20.9 and 23.7 half PPR points again, respectively. Week 4 was against the Bengals, who at that time hadn't quite figured out their identity with their cornerbacks and everything, but they're playing better now. And it was also against the, hold on a second, I lost my place, the woeful Vikings secondary. New England secondary might be better than both of those team secondaries then, but the Pats are dealing with some defensive back injuries with Jack Jones and Jalen Mills missing some time recently. Both are currently listed as questionable. You're probably not sitting the Cheetah, but if you're contemplating it, don't start him and win. He should help you win a fantasy championship this week.
I like it. The Cheetah.
Yeah, you've never heard that nickname for him?
I have.
I was going to say the Cheetah and the Penguin, Hill and Waddle.
I hadn't heard the Penguin. I guess because
you hadn't heard the Penguin? He does that little penguin bait dance when he scores a touchdown.
Oh, nope, I didn't know. My second guy, Zonovan Bam Knight versus the Seahawks. Bam has struggled 2 weeks in a row, 19 carries for 21 yards. Coincidentally, those coincided with 2 Zach Wilson starts, but also 2 bad game scripts.
Question? Mm-hmm. Is that 19 carries for both the past 2 weeks, past 2 weeks combined?
Combined, 19 carries for 21 yards the last 2 weeks.
Ooh.
Yeah, really bad.
Zach Wilson. So, we'll call
exactly.
it.
Coincide with 2 Zach Wilson starts plus 2 pretty bad game scripts. Well, Mike White is back, and I think that, along with the matchup, will propel Bam to a bounce-back game, or a Bam-back game, if you will. Bam was averaging 99 total yards and 0.33 touchdowns in the 3 Mike White starts prior, and 18 total yards in the last 2 Wilson starts. So, night and day, basically. See what I did there?
Are you talking about the Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz movie?
No, I'm talking about his last name, his night and day, the comparison of the 2 stats. 2 is the magic number for how bad Seattle is versus running backs. The Seahawks are second worst in fantasy points per game given up to the RB position and have given up the second most rushing yards on the season. Additionally, they give up an average of 167 total yards and 1.2 touchdowns to the running back position. Both are bad enough for, guess, second most. That's right. As I said, with Mike White returning, and the juiciest of matchups this week, I see Bam as a high-end RB2 this week. Oh, it's later on that I've got that little spiel.
And to make your point even better, the Seahawks are giving up the 3rd most receiving yards to running backs per game as well.
Love it. Carter still catches a little bit more, but it's not unheard of for Knight has to get 3 or 4.
Knight has. I was gonna say he has caught some balls, so I'm trying to help your point here, buddy.
No, I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Take the help, damn it.
Yeah. So mid-range RB2 for 1.
Take the help.
Zonovan Bam McKnight. Knight. God, I still did that.
Jordan McKnight.
What is my obsession with that?
Lovely pop singer.
No, it has nothing to do with, never had anything to do with him, ever. I hate R&B.
I think I said pop, but okay.
It's R&B.
Anyways, my next guy is actually 2. Strap yourself in, because that's kind of how they all are. At least this one. It is Amon-Ra St. Brown and DJ Chark versus Chicago. This is going to be more about the Sun God than Chark, but I'll get Chark out of the way. Chark, I think, is a bit of a flex play this week, mainly because of the matchup. But Chark has averaged 11.45 points per game the last week, which, and that is also anchored by his 2.3 game versus the Jets last week or the week before. I can't remember which. But otherwise, his fantasy score hasn't dipped below 12 points in a month. This week is the Bears, who lost their best corner, Jalen Johnson, last week or the week before. Once again, I can't remember that. Which, like I said, Chark should be a nice flex play this week. Jameson Williams hasn't really done much this year, and I'm kind of not expecting him to, since the season is getting short, and he's still coming back from his ACL injury that he suffered in January. Anyways, let's move on to Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's been really more of a meh guy than the sun god over the last 2 weeks. Something I just found out about Mr. St. Brown. He's a touchdown-dependent wide receiver. The targets are there, and sometimes the receptions are too, but there's only 1 week this year where he hasn't caught a touchdown and scored more than 12 fantasy points. The good thing is that 1 week where Amon-Ra St. Brown didn't score a touchdown and scored more than 12 fantasy points, it was against the Bears, who they're playing this week, if I didn't say that already. That was back in week 12. St. Brown caught 10 of his 11 targets for 119 yards. The Bears may only be giving up 0.8 touchdowns per game to wide receivers, but I think the old Sun God's got a good chance to rise again. Yeah,
I love it.
Sun rise to catch another touchdown. And of course, there's going to be a crap tons of targets and catches for him as well. So, yeah, you're starting him probably anyways. But I thought that was very interesting that he wasn't quite the smash start this year that he really has been. He's had some really great games. Don't get me wrong. But
yeah, those kind of borderline 30-point games
scored.
Yeah, those borderline 30-point games have really 25 to 30-point games have really buoyed it. And you're right, he absolutely scored in basically all of those. It seems to be a direct correlation with him being a possession receiver because you look at his average yards per. Oh, is that target that they put on Sleeper? IPT? Oh, I always thought that was yards per catch. Regardless,
yards per target.
Yeah, same general principle of, he's kind of a 10 yards and under guy unless he breaks one loose. Does that make sense? So it's like his yardage totals are low, his average is low. Targets and catches look great, and he's very consistent in terms of double digits, 10, 11, 12, 15. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Those games in which he has scored, he's also gotten over 100 yards. So that average shoots up a bit.
The boom games are boom, and then the non-touchdown games are very meh. Which makes him, he's like wide receiver 24 on the year, but at the first half of the season
feels higher. Yeah, you're right. Feels higher.
Yeah, the first half of the season he was like wide receiver 10, if not higher. It's just like he scored a lot of touchdowns in the first half and in the back half, not as many. So
yeah, that's fair.
It's not like I wanted to highlight him because it wasn't the smash start that you might think, but yeah, you should still start him this week and Chark as well.
Gotcha.
I wouldn't, if I had them both on my same fantasy team outside of Dynasty, I would not do both. I would be St. Brown and move on to something else if I had better options. But, that's kind of fundamentally against what I like to do. So, anyways.
I like to start all number one wide receivers and running backs every week because that's possible. That was a joke. All right, on to my next. How do you
start all of them on the same fantasy squad?
I don't know. Okay, 1 and 2 and 3.
Very carefully, okay.
Yes, you draft amazingly against nobody. Against AI, I don't know. J.K. Dobbins versus the Steelers is my third Fave 5 of the evening. Let's be clear. The Steelers have been much better versus the run lately, only giving up an average of 33 yards on the ground. J.J. Watt. You mean T.J. Watt?
I said T.J. Watt.
Oh, okay. An average of 33 yards on the ground to the Panthers and Raiders the last 2 weeks. But they're still not a great team or great defense this season. Dobbins has averaged 101 yards the past 3 weeks since returning from injury, rushing yards. That includes 120 yards and 1 touchdown versus this very same Steelers team only 3 weeks ago in his first game back from injury. Now, he rested a lot, so I felt like he was 100% good to go on that first game back. But still, it was his first game back. A little bit of rust, maybe. Had a great game. Dobbins has done all of this with a running quarterback, Tyler Huntley, stealing carries and not being terribly effective through the air. Despite getting Huntley again this week, I think the offense for the Ravens runs through Dobbins, and we see good usage, and I see him as a mid-range RB2 this week.
I see. Chris, quick update here. There's a praline cheesecake that I'm seeing right now on this website.
That's praline.
Praline. You say praline, I say praline.
I do.
And I say praline. Anyways, there's a praline cheesecake right here, and it looks freaking delicious. I'm sure it's diabetes in a cake form, but man, it looks so good. Anyways, I'm sorry, man.
I love
I
cheesecake.
opened that cheesecake candy tab, and yeah, I know you and your family loves cheesecake. You guys are like cheese. Like I don't know what you go through more, milk or cheesecake, or ice.
Pralines. Screw you, Google. I'm sorry, I was
What?
too busy. I was too busy trying to prove you wrong, and unfortunately, proved
Why?
you right in the process.
We can say it differently.
No, we cannot. Next player.
All right, fine. Go back to saying tomato, you freak. Garrett
Say
Wilson
tomato.
has been.
Oh, okay,
Garrett
yeah,
Wilson is
got
the next guy. He has been Garrett Wilson has been a bit of the God. Okay, start over. Garrett Wilson has been the biggest loser for the Jets this year. Well, outside of Brees Hall, but that's injury, so it doesn't. I don't count that. And I say that just because of there's all that last time with Zach Wilson and even when he was playing with Joe Flacco. Actually, he played okay with Joe Flacco. Lots of targets. Anyways, Garrett Wilson, he is one of my guys this week. He's actually been a very good wide receiver. The Seahawks, that is, been very good against the wide receiver. They're allowing the third fewest points per game. I'm still not sitting Garrett Wilson this week. I think with Mike White coming back to helm the Jets, I think that there's a good chance that Garrett Wilson could be a nice wide receiver too for you this week. In the 3 starts that Mike White has made for the Gang Green, Garrett Wilson has averaged 18.3 points per game. That is including a 10.8 point per game, or 10.8 point game against Buffalo, who is undoubtedly the toughest opponent that Garrett and White have faced together. So in a matchup that it might be equal to the Buffalo one, I can see where Garrett Wilson could. Yeah, I mean 10.8 isn't a lot of points, but I don't know how you sit Garrett Wilson. I think it's a guy that, like a lot of people I think picked up off the waiver wire especially after the first couple of weeks. It was dumped in a lot of leagues, and yeah, I think Garrett Wilson, man, it's a tough opponent. It really is. The Seahawks are surprisingly very tough against wide receivers this year, but I'm not sitting Garrett Wilson. How do you feel about that, Chris?
But you're not sitting Garrett Wilson was your last statement, right?
Yeah.
It's
a bit of a bold call. I get
I mean,
it.
where are you putting him as a flex? If I
maybe a flex to wide receiver too.
he's been good.
I mean, there was a lot of guys that was like really obvious starts, and then there was a lot of guys of no starts. So I was
far be it from me to be a pot calling the kettle black when I'm touting the return of Mike White for Zonovan Knight's prospects. So yeah, I think we're banking on Mike White. I mean, we're not going to say Mike White's going to go out there and score 30 fantasy points and play like Joe Montana, but we're saying he's going to buoy the Jets.
I'm saying
that. Spoiler alert, we found out his sleeper of the week, yeah, so yeah, I think we're banking on something we've seen happen enough in a relatively small sample size, to be fair, that yeah. Oh man, more turnovers from the awful Dallas Cowboys. Yay, playoffs.
Yeah.
My second to last Fave 5 of the evening is one that I thought I would never use again this year or maybe for the rest of his career. Cam Akers versus the Chargers. What the F, Cam Akers? Cam was the RB1 last week with 147 total yards, 3 touchdowns, and 33.7 fantasy points, and he did that versus a very good Denver defense. He gets a much better matchup this week versus the Chargers. Over his last 4 games, he's had over 60 total yards 3 times and 100 yards twice, to go along with 6 touchdowns over that 4-game span. The Chargers rank 8th worst in fantasy points per game given up to RBs, and have given up the 7th most rushing yards on the season. They also rank 31st in rushing yards per game and 26th in rushing touchdowns per game allowed to the running back position. Now, the Rams O-line continues to be decimated, but the fact he pulled off what he did last week versus the Broncos, and the fact that Derwin James has been suspended for this game, for this matchup,
oh really,
bodes well for Cam to have another great day. I like him as a low-end RB2 this week. Oh, and food for thought. If you have Bam Knight and Cam Akers on the same team, how about the Bam Cam show? Or just Bam Cam with a picture of Bam
I
Bam
think
from
I like
the Flintstones.
I like Cam Bam.
You like Cam Bam better than Bam Cam? Is that just to be different than me?
No, I think it rolls off the tongue better.
I think it does too, actually.
Cam Bam.
Cam Bam. Cam
Anyways,
Bam. Cam Bam.
Not a bad. I think you're looking at the overall stats for the Broncos rushing defense, but since they got rid of Bradley Chubb, their rush defense has gone down the toilet. So they've been pretty bad against the run like the last month.
Right. It was also 147 total yards, so some of that was through the air, and he did score 3 touchdowns. I mean, they're not like worst.
Dude, I'm not trying to take anything away from Cam Akers. Like, it's just that the Broncos. I'm not trying to take anything away from what you said because Cam Akers definitely did that. It's just I think we all need to remember maybe going into next year if the Broncos don't do anything for their defensive line, how ineffective they were against the run towards the end of this year. Instead of looking at overall numbers.
To be clear, also, you make a good point. Yeah, they need to do something to shore up their front seven, but he's a linebacker. He's a pass rushing linebacker. I get it. So he's as good as a defensive lineman, but he's a tad undersized to be a legit defensive end. He rushes the passer a ton. A lot of his stuff will come into play did come into play in terms of getting to the passer as opposed to stopping the run. So I think that's more the middle of the D-line. But yeah, still, again, since Chubb has been gone, he still makes tackles at a great rate.
It's still you can draw that line of
exactly
Chubb, post Chubb, or before Chubb left and after he left.
Absolutely. Maybe it's a little bit of leadership too. A little bit of believing in themselves, for goodness sakes, having a...
and then in the news, the Broncos fired their head coach, Nathaniel Hackett, and Russell Wilson is a steaming pile of garbage.
Well, that's second one's not news, but anyway, I think we said all we need to say. Where was I with Cam? Low end RB2, just as a reminder. Continue.
Seems a little conservative, but okay. I don't know.
I think Saquon was my only RB1. I think Saquon was my only RB top 12 guy this week. Everybody else has been...
whatever. I think we're splitting hairs on that. Jerry Jeudy. He is my next guy. The last time the Broncos faced the Chiefs, Jerry Jeudy scored 3 touchdowns. One of those touchdowns was thrown by Brett Ripien, who will not be playing this week. It will be this stupid... I'm going to start calling him Rust Wilson.
It's Rippin.
Is it really?
Yeah, Rippin. Like R-I-P-P-I-N. Rippin.
Chris, you say praline, I say praline. You say Rippin, I say Ripien.
Well,
Let's call the whole thing off.
I'm old, so I watched his uncle play or his dad? Uncle, I think.
His dad's cousin's brother's roommate's sister-in-law's boyfriend.
His name is Mark.
So what does that make them? Absolutely nothing.
Oh, gosh.
It's from Spaceballs. Come on, dude. You're no fun. Anyways, since coming back from injury, I've talked about this before. Jerry Jeudy is averaging 9 targets, 7 receptions, and about 84 receiving yards per game. Not too bad. He's averaging almost a touchdown in that game span too. That comes with the caveat of within those 3 weeks, he scored 3 touchdowns in one of those weeks. So it's an average of 1 touchdown per game. Had Jeudy not missed those 2 games and played in 3 partials earlier this year, he would be solidly in the wide receiver 2 range. But right now, I think he's at 25 or 28. Anyways, I think that's what Jerry Jeudy can be for your team this week too. A solid wide receiver 2. And the Chiefs are giving up the 7th most points per game to wide receivers too. So that's a nice buoy to my selection of Jerry Jeudy.
Buoy Jeudy. Big Buoy Jeudy. I said that right.
Hi. Are you saying Judy's got a big buoy?
I think that's what I'm saying. I think that's what you said.
Then.
I'm just putting a thing on it. Where was I?
It's getting uncomfortable. Keep going. Start going.
I'm on my 5th final favorite 5 of the frickin' evening. I'm going to give you a slash here. A Deonta Foreman / Chuba Hubbard versus the Buccaneers. Another kind of tough defense on the ground there. Though the Buccaneers have been elite versus the run most of the season, but as of late they have shown massive chinks in the armor. And the Panthers are a team hell-bent on running the ball, as evidenced by leading the league with 35 carries per game over the last 3 weeks. Both backs have been solid lately, though Foreman can be boom or bust, absolutely. Foreman is averaging 82.6 rushing yards and 0.33 rushing touchdowns over his last 3, while Chubbard is averaging 97 total yards and 0.33 touchdowns over that same 3-game span. I included the total yards for Chubbard because he's clearly the pass-catching guy for them. The Bucs have only given up 6, that's the 4th fewest, 6 rushing touchdowns to running backs all year. But half of those have come in the past 5 games, including James Conner last week going off for 120 total yards and 1 touchdown. Now, they did hold the Bengals backs in check in Week 15. But before that, in Week 14, McCaffrey went off for 153 total yards and 2 total touchdowns in Week 14. I said that twice, sorry. So in summary, the Bucs can be run on, and the Panthers are running the ball a ton, and pretty efficiently at that. I see Foreman as a high-end flex / low-end RB2 this week, and Chuba as a low-end, more of a desperation flex with plenty of PPR upside. Chuba, my apologies. 1B.
My last guy is, I'm not really that confident on because I don't know if Christian Watson is going to play. If he doesn't play, it's going to be, I'm going to actually go with Romeo Doubs over Alan Lazard. Anyways, first time the Packers played the Vikings was way back in Week 1. Dude, that was like 4 months ago. Is that crazy? 3 months ago.
Yeah, it is crazy.
4 months ago. Anyways, Lazard didn't play in that game. Christian Watson got hurt in the middle of it, and Romeo Doubs was still trying to get his sea legs out for underneath him. Out from underneath him? Underneath him. But let's fast forward 4 months later, and Jeepers Doubs has struggled to be consistent / healthy. Lazard has been out there doing something. I'm not really sure what. And Christian Watson is questionable with a hip injury. If all these wide receivers were 100% healthy, this would solely be about Christian Watson because he's been the star receiving weapon for Green Bay this year, which was kind of to my counterpoint going into the season because I didn't think that Aaron Rodgers, I always want to call him Brett Favre, and I don't know why, because Aaron Rodgers doesn't have a big history with rookie wide receivers. Anyways, but since he is questionable, this is a really juicy matchup. Really juicy. The Vikings secondary is banged up and terrible. They've been giving up the second most points to wide receivers, and that's the second most only to the Titans. Might be the most after this game here. When you have wide receivers going up against the Vikings, Chris, you start them. And let's be crystal clear on this. If Watson plays, he's the clear-cut number 1. But if he doesn't, I'm going Doubs over Alan Lazard. Alan Lazard has been the kind of the ghost out there, and I will take the upside of Doubs if Watson doesn't go.
So you're going Doubs over Lazard if Watson doesn't go. I'm going
a bit bold there. Yeah.
We might talk about one of those guys later. You did update us.
Alan Lazard.
You did update us on Watson at the beginning of the show, right?
Yeah, I didn't practice today.
Or yesterday.
That's not a death nail, but...
but tomorrow will be telltale sign. And,
man,
again, we'll talk about it later.
Even then this year, man, people have skipped an entire week of practice and ended up playing. Like, it's not the death nail it used to be. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
You got a tight end for us, Chris?
I do. Sorry, I was thinking about going ahead with my sleeper, but we'll wait. My first tight end stream of the evening is Cole Kmet versus the Detroit Lions. He is 64% rostered. I included roster percent of both these guys because it's tough to find a guy that's like, I don't know, less than 50. But I wanted to keep it
That's why I
respectable.
only have one.
Oh, you have one this week? Okay. Again, 64% roster for Cole Kmet versus the Lions. Kmet has benefited from the absence of pass-catching weapons for the Bears the last couple of weeks. As a reminder, Chase Claypool is questionable with a knee. He was limited Thursday, today, which was his first return to practice since week 13. Equanimeous St. Brown, questionable with a concussion, was also limited today. This would be his first return to practice since week 15.
Yeah, but what about Byron Pringle?
Yeah, I don't care about him. Kmet
I don't care about the other two.
Pardon me, I already read that part. Last couple of weeks, and he has averaged a respectful 6 targets per game and 41.3 yards over the last 3 games. And those last 3 games have come versus better defenses than the Lions. Buffalo, Philly, Green Bay. The Lions are 6th worst in fantasy points per game given up to the tight end position, 3rd worst in passing yardage surrendered on the year, and have given up 3 tight end touchdowns over the last 4 weeks. And to top it off, Kmet had his best game of the season versus the Lions in week 10 with 74 yards and 2 scores. He also
I thought he had 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, he also scored 2 touchdowns the week before that versus Miami. That clearly illustrates he can get on a hot streak versus bad tight end defenses. And with the other pass catching options likely not at 100%, I like Kmet this week as a tight end 1.
I'm not going to argue with you on that one. Good job.
Thank you, sir. What you got?
I really wanted to make that. I should have made that. So can we rewind that and I can say it super sarcastically, but actually be sincere about it?
Sure.
Good job. Jeez.
I was like, I'll just edit it out. Anyway, please give us your copious amounts of tight end knowledge.
My one tight end is because I had a very similar problem. Like, I'm going to go with this guy. Oh, 65%. I'm going to go with this guy. Surely he's less than 50%. Oh, 74%. Oh, what about this guy? 80 something. I'm like, okay,
but there's
fine.
Still a ton of guys ranked, depending on how you would rank them, from the 8 to 15 that are, they're over 60, 65%, a lot of them, but you got to pick those guys. Got to talk about
them.
No,
I don't.
No, you don't. You're right. Okay, so...
No, I don't, goddammit. I'm just going with Jelani Woods. He's going up against the Giants because you know why? Why the hell not?
Who does he play for? The Colts?
Yes, I am assuming that if you are playing for something meaningful, you hopefully got picked up Darren Waller off the waiver wire, or David Njoku, maybe Greg Dulcich. But if you didn't, and you're feeling adventurous in your championship, maybe you're playing for the runner-up. Maybe you're playing for 3rd place, and maybe you need Jelani Woods here. He's getting the Giants. They're 11.3 points per game to the tight end position. The problem is Mo Alley Cox, who I'm not sure why the Colts keep rolling him out there, other than the fact that he's just
a giant.
They put him on there to be like the biggest guy in the field, apparently.
He's a 2nd or 3rd string tight end and a 2nd or 3rd string offensive tackle. Rolled into one.
But Jelani Woods has had one good game under his very abbreviated rookie campaign, and with the Giants which I believe that 11.3 is like 5th most points to the tight end position. Like, why not Jelani Woods? He's healthy, and the only problem is that his quarterback is Nick Foles. So, but Nick Foles has utilized the tight end as well. Remember when Zach Ertz was in Philly? With Nick Foles. So, I'm not saying Jelani Woods is Zach Ertz. Maybe not yet. But Jelani Woods is also, one of those like athletic freak dudes.
Oh, for sure.
So,
speaking of size, he's got plenty of size and speed. Also, he's
that's it. That's every player for the Colts.
Yeah, right.
That's every player for the Colts.
He's huge.
Like Jim Irsay just gets he gets a little excited when he sees guys over 6'7",
253.
That's a monster of a man. Go play basketball.
Yeah. Well, and I'm pretty
sure,
and he can run quite a bit better than Mr. Mo Alley Cox. To be clear.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a bit more.
Anyways, real quick, Doc's got to go. So later, Doc. Thanks for harassing Chris during the show.
Story of my life. That's all anybody ever does to me. Just Grass is
God, if the Titans were any sort of good on offense, then they could be handily winning this game.
I don't want to talk about it. What I do want to talk about is Evan Ingram versus the Texans. He is 69% rostered. Nice.
That's it.
I was still surprised it was at that. In fact, that's why I picked him. I was like, what? 69%?
Saying,
I was like, he's
nice.
in the show. I was like, man, I'm not leaving this alone. If he should be like 80%.
There's another guy that was definitely people were picking up off of rosters and could be in the competition or the conversation for like a league winner. Like you don't come across many tight ends that are.
I don't quite go down that path here, but I think I kind of echo your sentiment there. He's been really good, dude. He's had 4 again, 69% rostered. He's had 4 top 12 finishes in a row the last 4 weeks, which makes him a tight end 1, obviously, folks. And is the tight end
points in those 4, yeah, and
double-digit fantasy points too. And is the tight end 5 on the season, only 7.2 points behind Mark Andrews. That says a lot about Andrews. Also, I'm just pointing out the fact that he's the tight end 5
because of one big week.
No, I think he's had 4 tight end 1 finishes in a row.
With one enormous week.
Sure. So, I mean, Andrews hasn't had an enormous week. Don't you think there should be a knock against him? It works both ways.
I'm saying that it isn't.
I'm saying that it is. Now, the Texans are not I don't know what I just said there. I'm just trying to
disagreed there, but we went about it 2 different ways.
I'm just too used to disagreeing.
You said tomato, I said potato.
I'm saying you should take nothing away from Evan Ingram for having one huge week because he had the huge week. Take all you want away from Andrews for not having a huge week. Like, it works both ways, is what I'm saying.
I think we're saying the same thing.
Okay, cool. Now, the Texans are not a good tight end matchup.
I'm just more right than you.
Now, the Texans are not a good tight end matchup, but they have given up the 11th most yards per game to tight ends over the last 5 weeks at 54 yards per game. Furthermore, when these two met in week 5, Ingram managed to catch 6 of his 10 targets for another nice 69 yards. Now, Ingram plays half his snaps out of the slot, but when lined up at a traditional tight end position, he could draw Christian Kirksey in coverage, go Hawks, who has given up the 9th most yards in coverage among linebackers. Ingram should be a slam dunk tight end 1 again this week. And
want to bet on that?
If he's out there,
you can have a chance to win your $20 back.
I'm not betting you cash, and I don't owe you $20.
You owe me $20.
I never bet
$20.
No, we clearly play the show back. We did it on air.
And by did it, I mean I'm wrong.
And by did it, I mean didn't do it on air. You said something a moment ago I wanted to touch on real quick in terms of Ingram. I don't remember what it was. I was just gonna say that last example I threw out was week 5. That was another time. I'm pretty sure it was a tight end 1 game off the top of my head. Seems like ages ago. Week 5, I get it, but another solid game, another thing to push him to tight end 5 on the year, and 2 weeks to go, or 1 week, however the website does it. Anyway, I'm super surprised by this guy. Like you said, maybe a borderline league winner, at least a playoff game winner, maybe getting to playoff,
sure.
Getting to playoffs. If you go back a couple more weeks, he's been solid, man.
Okay, my quarterback stream of the week is extremely obvious. It's Teddy Bridgewater.
Oh, Dolphins playing.
He's had, as I mentioned earlier when I was talking about Tyreek Hill, he's had 2 starts in week 4 and 6, and he averaged 17.5 points per game in those 2 starts. The Pats are allowing 17.1 points per game to quarterbacks. It's if you're streaming in championship week, like, I mean, I suppose
what
you might be.
Yeah, maybe you only had Tua.
I really hope you're not. Like, yeah, I mean, I guess if you had Tua, then switch to his backup. Like, I mean, what other quarterback is out right now that you were really relying on that you really got to the championship with? And you can't, maybe Jalen Hurts. You can't say Lamar Jackson because he's been shooting people in the foot all year long. You know, like
Hurts, because he's.
Yeah, I said that.
I'm asking. You said Hurts has been shooting people in the foot.
No, Lamar Jackson.
Oh, my apologies. Understood. I mean, I don't know. I doubt Goff is out there for folks.
No, he's like up to 80%
rostered, too much
to
rostered, yeah, and he should be, to be fair. Maybe Purdy's still out there. I don't think he's a heck of a much better start than Teddy, given your analysis just then with the average points and what the Patriots are giving up. 17 points is nothing to sneeze at in a championship game if you're borderline desperate at quarterback. But Purdy I'd put in the same category at least, not necessarily above.
I don't know. Didn't Purdy have like a bad game last week, or is he?
It wasn't great.
Was it
last week or week before? It wasn't great for fantasy. To be fair, it was barely double digits.
I think it was last week, and he has like a kind of a rough man. Oh no, it's the Raiders. Never mind. Huh.
Yeah, that's why I was looking at that, and plus I'd heard some other analysis from him about him. Gosh, I don't know, man. That he's?
I don't know. I think I was thinking about this earlier. So Jimmy Garoppolo is not under contract going into next year. And Brock Purdy's a rookie, and what's his faces was also a rookie, wasn't he?
Lance? Last year.
Yeah.
Isn't this his second year? No.
Yeah, this is his second year.
Has to be a second year.
Yeah, it is.
Because they were going to start him this year, and they were going to start him his second year.
Purdy was okay last week.
Okay.
Huh. There was a reason why I didn't go with him, and I don't remember what it was. I'm like, so I think the 49ers can usually look at Jimmy Garoppolo and be like, thanks for your service, dude.
Oh yeah,
we're gonna go with the kids.
4 weeks in a row, he's been solid. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's a big enough sample size for me.
Are you changing your streamer to Brock?
Yeah, Purdy? Right. No, not mine. I'm just giving the pushback on Purdy versus a Teddy. I think it's real close. In fact, I would probably
completely agree with you.
Yeah, in fact, I probably would go Purdy over him. But no, mine is one. Oh wait, no, I don't. You did a QB streamer. I thought we stopped doing quarterback streamers. God dang it! We didn't do any last week.
We never. Yeah, we did actually.
You did. I didn't.
We never actually agreed on it, so I just put him in there. Well. I'm making up for lost time when I didn't have any sleep.
So no, I'm not changing my quarterback stream of the week because I don't have a quarterback stream of the week. I'm inserting Brock Purdy. No, Brock Purdy.
You underachieved. No,
as easy as pie.
You
underachieved by communicating poorly because we agreed upon it 3 weeks ago.
I'm a great communicator.
Sleeper.
You never agreed to it.
Is Alan Lazard versus the Vikings. Good when we're even. Alan Lazard versus the Vikings. As mentioned earlier, Christian Watson has yet to practice this week. Lazard, while struggling at times and not seizing the opportunity while Watson was out beforehand, has still been somewhat consistent. Lazard has seen over 6 targets 3 times in his last 5 games and 11 targets twice, including last week with Watson leaving in the third quarter. Even if Watson goes, I'm sticking by my sleeper because, quite frankly, I can't, I'm out. The Vikings are one of, if not the worst passing defense in the entire league. They're second worst in fantasy. As historically bad?
No, I was going to take a dig at the Cowboys game right now. Go ahead.
They, meaning the Vikings, are second worst in fantasy points per game given up to the wide receiver position, dead last in passing yards surrendered, all while allowing the second most yards per game and most receptions per game to the wide receiver position. And in terms of Watson playing or not, the Vikings have allowed at least 2 wide receivers to top 65 yards in 4 of their last 5. Lazard should be in your flex spot if you need a spot start in this championship week. And he's in my...
I don't have a sleeper player this week, Chris, but I have a Hail Mary player this week.
Oh boy. Deeper than Lazard or Purdy or Teddy.
He is only 12% rostered. And I put it as a Hail Mary player because I thought that like CeeDee Lamb would have about 30 fantasy points right now, and so it's just like, hey, if you went up against it, and this was also wrote this before Derrick Henry was out too. So, and Tony Pollard and all that. So I was like, hey, if you are in the hole big time in championship week, here's a guy that maybe you could start as kind of a, well, you're already behind the 8 ball, might as well shoot for the fence sort of thing. And that is Kendrick Bourne for the New England Patriots. It sounds like crap. It smells like crap. It might even taste like crap, Chris. But it's Kendrick Lamar. It's Kendrick Labourne.
LeBron. Suddenly
I was
French.
thinking Kendrick Lamar, but anyways, it's Kendrick Bourne. Like I said, he's only 12% available, but he just dropped a 21.9 fantasy points game last week versus the Bengals. This week he's going up against a very average Dolphins. They're giving up the 17th most points per game to wide receivers. And this could potentially end up as a shootout, or as much as a shootout that McCorkle Jones and Teddy Bridgewater can actually launch against each other. So, in case of emergency, break Kendrick Bourne.
Like it.
Or in case of Kendrick Bourne, break emergency. However you want to look at that. That's it. That's all I got.
I think that's all we got. It's been really quiet in chat. Besides some Cowboys updates from Doc, who has since left. And
been trolling you?
I mean, I can't. Yep. Yeah, right. No, he does that all the time. I just call him out on it.
You know what they say, Chris? You got to try.
I don't blame him. I don't blame him.
To get to the boys' hole.
I'm as concerned about Dak's play lately as anybody. By the way, he just threw a touchdown to Dalton Schultz. They hung this defensive out to try.
I was there.
I thought I was pulling up one last thing real quick before I moved on. Anyway, I guess that's all I was talking about. It's been pretty cool. Asking for a friend. I don't think we have a whole lot of asking for friends because you're not playing anymore. And my decisions are basically made for me because I have a very shallow dynasty roster. Let's go, Malik Davis.
Your dynasty roster is just like you.
Shallow?
Yeah.
That's probably fair. I'm not gonna put up too much resistance there.
Well, you don't have any resistance. There's no depth to put up resistance.
Right. 5.6 points from Malik Davis so far. I've won with less.
Oh TD. No, does CD have less than that?
Oh, I don't know. It's probably not good. 8.7.
Okay.
7 catches, 52 yards.
We have been amazing fantasy football. Hopefully Chris edits that part out. And that part. Anyways, normally we do a Sunday stream. We have been doing a Sunday stream for last minute injury updates, but since it's New Year's Day, we will not be doing it because Chris will be all pied on New Year's Eve and won't be in any shape to be doing it on Sunday morning. Maybe I'm just projecting myself on you. What?
Isn't there? That probably won't happen. Isn't there traditionally annually college football on New Year's Eve?
Day?
New Year's Day. You're right.
But
Eve is Sunday, so there's NFL.
It got switched to New Year's Eve this year because I think the NFL's on Sunday. Normally the playoff games are on New Year's Eve.
Oh, Saturday. Right.
Or New Year's Day, damn it.
Sunday's New Year's Day. I was thinking Sunday was New Year's Eve day. You're correct. Sunday is New Year's Day. Henceforth, you believe they moved the big college games to the Saturday slate.
Yeah, to be nice to the NFL, to be nice to Big Brother NFL.
Yeah, well,
as
long as I can get some football watching in, that's going to be my New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. And no, watching the kids.
I don't think there's any Saturday games for the NFL this week.
That's weird. They all were on Saturday. Well, that was because of the holiday, right? Because Christmas Day was actually on.
I think they're just making the best of that Christmas weekend. I
didn't get around to. So go ahead. Sorry.
And the NCAA and the NFL they work very well together of getting out of each other's way.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no I think normally there's Saturday games in week 17, but since there's playoff games on New Year's Eve, the NFL's be like, okay, you have your space, we'll have our space on New Year's Day, that sort of thing.
Just make Just make the Super Bowl on Saturday for F's sake. Just get it over with.
I really should.
I took
the day after the Super Bowl off this year just because I'm like, whatever. I might even end up going into work, but
it's just I can't speak for everybody, but I feel like folks like you and me are, well, you're single and a bit younger, but folks like me and you are more likely to go out on a Super Bowl Sunday evening than we are on a New Year's Eve.
Saturday. Oh, Sunday evening. I get it. Then
Yeah,
New Year's Eve.
Just because it's Super Bowl and because it's like, we're into it and this and that, and it's a big party atmosphere and it's fun to go out and do something, go throw a party at your house, go to somebody's party, go out, go
For
whatever.
Oh yeah.
As opposed to I'm
Eve?
really kind of anti New Year's Eve. I'm just like, it's just.
I don't remember the last time I went out on New Year's Eve, dude.
That's what I'm getting at is I felt like you felt the same.
Okay, granted, there's been a lot of COVID in there, but even
couple
then,
years,
like,
yeah.
Man, I honestly don't remember.
It's more trouble than it's worth for me. I'll put it that way. However, with Super Bowl Sunday, it's a bit of an earlier start. It can last. Anyway, I'm just saying, I wish I would do it on Saturday because it is a very party atmosphere and they should just stop with this Sunday business. It's just a different day of the week.
There for the longest time, like the day after the Super Bowl was like National Call In Sick Day.
Yeah, and it's like if that's really going to be
the one day out of the year where people called in sick the most. I think it's changed a little bit since. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I just don't know a lot of people. Like, I don't have a lot of friends, anyways. I'm a bit of a loser, but I don't really think that a lot of people do a lot of things for the Super Bowl anymore, and I think a lot of it's just because of where I live, like we don't have a pro team around here. If it's not the Bears or whatever,
the Hawkeyes or
that's not a professional football team.
I understand what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like I don't think a lot of people get super amped because they're not into the teams that are in the Super Bowl. Like I've been like some bars around here, they close early on Super Bowl Sunday because it's just dead, like dead AF.
Everybody's cooking out at home or whatever.
Well, but like even then, like I just said, like no one's like super interested in it because they're not like, they're not invested in like an LA and a New York team in the Super Bowl.
They're too busy watching wrestling and hockey in Iowa. Cool.
What? No.
Yeah, it's like wrestling. I've never. Probably never
like college wrestling. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean college wrestling. I didn't mean pro wrestling. You did make the pro reference. My apologies. I didn't discern between that. No,
I do know some pro wrestling fans. It's odd.
Right. I'd never heard of like being a legit like fan of wrestling. We didn't have wrestling in school in Texas. We just don't. It's not a thing. Ever since I moved to the Midwest, it's like, oh, y'all like wrestling. Okay. Call it collegiate.
But like Oklahoma was a long time like big wrestling school.
Yeah, we never cared about it. Nobody.
It's because Texans love football like
too much.
They love football more than their firstborn. Yeah.
A little too much. Yeah, that might be. And we were specifically high school football. Like, come on, guys, this is high school we're talking about. Like, screaming at your kids. But if you think about it,
like especially like in like those small towns, it's like Iowa City, man. Like that's all we have is the university here, and like that's all they have is their small town school. Like.
I get it, I guess.
What else are you going to be enthused about?
Nebraska would be another example.
Same thing.
No pro teams.
Same thing.
I mean, I don't know. I would adopt the nearest pro team or a popular one or something that had some significance, maybe to my dad or something. That's how I would go about it. But no, it's a thing. You're absolutely right. It's a real thing.
We were supposed to end this show 10 minutes ago. Damn it.
Yeah, we were. This is more editing for me to do.
Here we go. We have been Amazing Fantasy Football. I am Josh, and over there is the sea salt of my caramel, Chris. And we are not doing the Sunday stream anymore for the rest of the season. But we do have a new thing starting next week. We'll maybe be switching nights, maybe? ? We did
because
last year in the off season.
Effectively over, and
yeah. Don't play fantasy in week 18. I'm not really sure why, but
yeah, we didn't touch on that tonight.
So I just roll with it. I'm like, I don't know. If you want to keep playing, it's another week of fantasy football. But hey, man, I get why. I don't know. I don't quite get the absolute hatred for it, I guess. But I understand why people do it. But some people are like, you shouldn't do that. That's wrong. I'm like, if someone wants to do it, then whatever. It's an extra week of fantasy football. Anyways, we've been Amazing Fantasy Football. I am out. Good luck, everyone.
Good luck.